beyond Yangwan. Your first glimpse of Xinjiang begins here. From here, one glance is enough to capture everything you've ever imagined of Xinjiang. Golden deserts, vast wilderness, peaks shimmer afar, pastures glowing green. Each scene unfolds Xinjiang's vastness, grandeur, solitude, and mystery. The lowest, driest, and hottest, the longest sunlight, and the staunchest winds give this land a special pull. Time unseen, history lost. Lives and legends from tens of thousands of years ago still linger in this ancient land, unfolding, resurfacing, alive once more. Let's begin in Hami and Turpan, to witness time, to feel history within a timeless moment. The Tianshan Mountains are named after the sky. Thousands of years ago, the first nomads gazed up at these sky-high peaks and called them what they felt: sacred mountains. From these sacred ranges rose Bogda Peak, Tomer Peak, Kontingri, and dozens more snowy peaks, soaring beyond 5,000 meters. North and south of Tianshan are steep, full of ridges and valleys. Mountains give way to basins. As the largest mountain range in the world's arid regions, the Tianshan Mountains stretch more than 2,500 kilometers across 4 countries, including China, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Uzbekistan. Hami, where the Tianshan Mountains legend begins. In this story shaped by time, it is both an ending and a beginning. Unlike the rugged peaks elsewhere, the eastern Tianshan around Hami rolls gently. Beneath soft ridgelines, wild red deer were first tamed by human hands. Domesticate plants, tame animals, and civilization begins. Below the eastern Tianshan, there's a basin larger than the entire Nile Delta, offering a huge ground where civilizations rose and evolved. This very basin spans two regions, Hami and Turpan. At its eastern edge, Hami stands as the gateway, and the Silk Roads, first stop into the western regions. West of Hami lies Turpan, another vital crossroads on the Silk Road. This pivotal location tied the basin's fate to the Central Plains. The Tianshan Temple Dabin, 2,700 meters high, was historically known as Tianshan Summit Dabin. In 1875, Zhuozong Tang reclaimed Xinjiang to secure the advance. He stationed 14 battalions in Hami to fortify Tianshan Temple Dabin. Overlooking Xinjiang's boundless land, the temple stood as a declaration to reclaim the lost land. This very place, since the Han Dynasty, has been the empire's gateway to the western regions. To honor that bond, later generations raised a statue of Ban Chao, Protector General of the western regions. In 630, Hami owned the Tang dynasty's first military institution, Izhou. Below Tianshan Temple Dabin, the Yiwu army of the Biting Protectorate built Da He, Tangqing city on the Barkle Grassland. In the Qing dynasty, Han and Tang's legacy revived on the grassland. Barkle City witnessed the tides of history. It began as a frontier garrison in the early Qing. Later, when Zhuo commanded Xinjiang's campaigns, it became a forward base and supply hub. When the battles ceased, swords were cast off. From central, northern, northwestern, and southeastern China, soldiers, merchants, and craftsmen arrived bringing trade and craft, making a distant land home. To nature, 1,000 years from the Han to Qing dynasties passed in a blink. Nature, like a calm director, arranges all the geographical elements and waits for history to unfold. About 60 kilometers from Barkle Kazakh, Mingsha Mountain rises from the grassland. This vast desert was part of the Silk Road's northern route. for 1,000 years of thriving Silk Road trade. This mountain saw constant exchanges between east and west. Hills, deserts, pastures, and lakes. Xinjiang's iconic landscapes encircle the mountain intimately. From here, you can just gaze into the distance, and Xinjiang's magic unfolds before your eyes. "50 kilometers away lies Tokyo Lake. Its waters change hue with the weather, earning it the name Symphony Lake. The secret lies in tiny microorganisms. In water heavy with salt, Dunaliella algae release red pigments, turning the lake from azure to pink. Barkle Lake, another famed salt lake on the Grassland. For its vastness, it was once called the Pulei Sea. Here, nomadic and agrarian worlds once met and mingled. Near Barkle Lake, there is not only a stele recording Eastern Han's war against the Xiongnu, but also one of the Tang dynasty honoring Jiang Xingbin, who oversaw the transport of grain and war horses near Songshitang in Barkle. History drifts like a shepherd song across millennia, still echoing over summer pastures by the lake. Barkle Grassland, Xinjiang's second largest, is a cradle of its nomadic past. Some scholars even believe the Song of Chile sang of here. Grassland spreads endlessly. Song echoes still. This grassland has watched empires of horsemen rise and fall. Each summer, once they settle, Kazakh herders' first task is to raise their yurts. As national intangible heritage, the yurt, with its low dome, sharpens the grassland scale and the sky's distance. Life beneath the open sky teaches Kazakh women to use the simplest materials to create beauty. In the yurt, each braided whip carries history. There were once two kinds of whips. Before the Qin, the Central Plains favored rigid whips made of bamboo or metal. After Zhongxian journeyed west, soft leather whips began, appearing often in Central Plains records. For a herder, a whip is a companion, and also a mark of pride. Kazakhs have carried the whip since their ancestors first rode. In a sense, it is a living symbol, threading generations of Kazakhs together. Buzkashi, the fearless rider's game of the steppe. It demands superb riding skills and teamwork strategies like flanking and circling. On horseback, they often chase lost lambs through blizzards and face wolves across open plains. Buzkashi hones more than skill. It forges nerve, quick wit, and courage. The Kazakhs call their finest riders eagles of the steppe. They ride at festivals, celebrations, and important life ceremonies, galloping across the grasslands in full stride. History flows like a river, never still. Throughout history, the Turpan Hami Basin stands like a special sundial, witnessing countless turns of the stars. It was a sea basin, about 120 million years ago. Above it, gigantic Hemipterus ruled the skies. The Himalayan orogeny shattered the sea basin. In a lingering marine landscapes, one can almost hear the dying cries of the pterosaurs. Over 2 million years ago, Tianshan's rise gave the basin its final shape. The towering ranges blocked the rain, and as the waters dried away, the land turned into a hot, arid basin. Eons of change were carved on stone by winds. $80-million-year-old sandstone, 70-million-year-old mudstone, 60-million-year-old conglomerate, stacked in layers like a cake of ages. Each layer holds the memory of a vanished age. Here, invisible time becomes stones you can touch. A timeless moment in an endless wild. Against time's vastness, life felt fleeting. The ancients sought immortality. Risking his life for the Dharma, Xuanzang came to Dahado. The sandy waste harbors deadly spirits and scorching winds. So, Xuanzang described the terror of this place. Dahado, an ancient Silk Road route from Dunhuang through Hami to Turpan. Opened in a Han dynasty, it faded by the Tang as trade routes shifted away. Since then, only time has stood guard over the world's largest Yardang landscape. Yardang, before geographers claimed it, referred to steep-walled hills. At noon, the ground can scorch at 70 degrees Celsius. Even with modern gear, crossing it tests human limits. Speed against fear, body against death. That is the pull of extreme sports. Push past limits, and the world opens wide. In January 628, Xuanzang crossed Dahado, barely alive, emerging at last from the wasteland. When King Chu Wantai of Gaochang heard, he sent nobles with camels to welcome him. Guided by the envoys, Xuanzang saw a great city rise from the desert sands. Gaochang, where the Han officials managed frontier settlements, took its name from high ground and flourishing people. From northern Wei to early Tang, for dynasties ruled here, all founded by Han generals or nobles. Gaochang ancient city was built to mirror Chang'an. Seeing pagodas and scripture halls, Xuanzang thought to himself that he had returned home. The Tang Empire embraced diverse lands and peoples into its fold. Confidence nurtures tolerance. Openness gives breadth. All peoples shared in the brilliance of China's golden age. In the ravines beyond the city, cultures left their marks, too. "50 kilometers from Turpan are the Tuyat Grottos. Carved in the 5th century by Gaochang royalty. It was called Dingu Temple in the Tang era. Some scholars trace the name Dingu to Tocharian, which means cave. The caves bear the traces of many cultures. Inside, you can see Wu Daozi's paintings, with bold strokes and minimal color, typical of the early Tang. You can also see the artistic forms of the Kucha grottos. From northern and southern dynasties to the Yuan dynasty, Central Plains cinnabar, Mediterranean cobalt, and West Asian gold. Lit more than 90 caves for 7 centuries. In 1981, records of the western regions was first found here in fragments. Alongside Indian sutras, Xuanzang once translated. Less than 20 kilometers away, another national treasure nestles in Tianshan mountain slopes. Bezekla Caves, once Ningrong Temple in the Tang dynasty. This site holds more than history. It records transformation. In Cave 38, beneath inches of plaster, another world of faith lies hidden. White walls, white robes, and flame-like brown sacred trees suggest before Buddhism arrived, it had been a Manichaean sanctuary. By the song, Gaochang had converted, and the Manichaean past was sealed away. The Bezekla Caves became a royal temple. To show their devotion, Gaochang's rulers had themselves painted upon the walls. The prince's portraits, with smooth lines and rounded faces, reflect Tang portraiture style. The princess's portraits shows Byzantine grace and Sasanian elegance. Their preservation through thousands of years is associated with Turpans, searing heat, bone-dry air, and isolation. Step out of the Bezekla Caves, and the red cliffs before you are the Flaming Mountains. These mountains, cutting through Turpan's heart, stretch about 100 kilometers. Form of iron-rich shale and sandstone. From the Cretaceous age, they blaze as if they were actually burning. As a branch of the Tianshan, they began lifting 200 million years ago. 60 million years ago, the Himalayan orogeny split the range apart. The huge fracture left the highest point of them, only 800 meters. Known as China's hottest spot, ground temperatures here are over 80 degrees Celsius. Evaporation exceeds rainfall by 180 to 1, making it the driest place in the country. Scorching heat and hot air turn this barren land into a desert. The Gaochang Desert lies at Turpan's eastern edge. Ages ago, these vast deserts, including the Gaochang Desert, were called Mohi and Chi by Silk Road travelers. Some scholars call it the gateway to the western regions. The Gaochang Desert presses closest to the city. In 73, Han envoy Banqiao camped here and took Tianshan with only 36 men. "You won't get the cubs unless you enter the tiger's den," is his motto. Tianshan witnessed that history. Here, desert meets oasis edge to edge. About 100 kilometers away lies the famous Ading Lake. Its surface sits over 154 meters below sea level, the lowest point in China. Every 100 meters down, the air warms by 0.6 degrees Celsius. So low that sinking dry air whips up faint winds around the lake, heating up the air. Likewise, the low position allows meltwater from surrounding peaks to seep through parched earth, surfacing in low ground as streams. When lake water evaporates, it leaves a crust of salt behind. Beneath it, where groundwater lingers, life threads its way across this hot, dry desert. As the lowest basin in China, water gathering at the floor has made the miracles of civilization possible. Keres is one such miracle. In the Han Dynasty, such wells and underground channels were already described in historical records. Turpan's windstorms threaten to bury the Keres. Locals must maintain them in spring and summer. Fed by glacier melt, the channels run icy cold even in spring's warmth. At 7 a.m. in Gaochang, Turpan, villagers draw from the open channel to brew tea. This canal is 2 centuries old. In Turpan, a Keres made of vertical wells, reservoirs, and underground and open channels determines a village's fate. Over 1,000 Keres form a network stretching over 5,000 kilometers in the basin. At their peak, they delivered as much water as 1/6 of Beijing's supply today. With Keres, the bitter basin also tastes sweetness. The grape is a sweet fruit, native to West Asia and Europe. It reached China through the Silk Road during the Han. Turpan was the first to grow grapes in China. Today, Turpan's vineyards produce 1/5 of China's grapes. In drying houses below the flaming mountains, sugar and grapes concentrates. In northern and southern dynasties, Turpan produced raisins, reached the heartland as tribute and goods. As a major trade hub on the Silk Road, thanks to Turpan's dry heat, a wealth of historical sites has been preserved. Jiaohe City rests like a great ship, anchored in time. This ancient city was a crossroads of the Silk Road. In the Western Han, Jiaohe garrison was established here. In the Tang, it became the first seat of the Anxi Protectorate. Jiaohe City remains the world's largest, oldest, and best preserved rammed earth city. Like Gaochang, its streets, markets, and wards were modeled after Chang'an. During the Tang Dynasty, over 20 languages were spoken here, and texts were recorded in more than 10 scripts. The grandeur of Jiaohe as an international city can find its testament in another site of Turpan. The Astana tombs, from the 3rd to 8th centuries, were Gaochang people's public cemetery. Statues of Fuxi and Nuwa marking the tombs come from dozens of silk burial items found here. In the Tang, the prefecture and county system was introduced. It established Xizhou in Turpan. From then on, the Central Plains custom of burying figurines became popular in Xizhou. The introduction of Central Plains customs shows that in ancient times, a shared Chinese identity had already taken deep root in people's minds. This 1,300-year-old doggerel was written by a 12-year-old Xizhou schoolboy named Bu Tianshou. His clumsy, yet neat strokes preserve the life of the western regions within Chinese culture. Such documents, over 2,700 pieces, were mostly written in Chinese. As China's earliest paper archives, they record the daily lives of people here and the reach of Chinese civilization in this region. These 1,000-year-old figurines revive the musical splendor of Gaochang. Of the 10 Tang court music styles, half came from here. The pipa plays new tunes, yet stirs old frontier sorrows. Wrote a Tang poet, moved by West region's dances. Dances and melodies, bridge millennia. The exchange between heartland and frontier still echoes in Xinjiang's music today. Uyghur Mukim in Xinjiang, China, a UNESCO intangible cultural heritage. Due to geographic differences, this grand art form, blending song, dance, and music has endured and evolved into distinct styles in Turpan and Hami. In Turpan, whether they imitate animals in performances or playfully tease each other, performers blend humor with grace. In Hami, closer to the heartland, the Mukim here, when you observe the whole performance, like the instrument, the caps, and the collar patterns, bears Central Plains influences. Beneath grapevines, the Mukim passes from grandfather to grandson. And what they pluck isn't just strings, but the threads of time itself. Time, one of nature's shaping forces. Of all nature's forces, it's the mightiest yet most unseen. In the Turpan Hami Basin, time's power becomes visible. Here, it raised oceans into mountains, then broke them, carving ravines and gullies across the land. Seas became fields, time revealing itself through change. Even today, we still live within its flow. Sandailing in Hami, one of Xinjiang's first coal mines. Here, the world's last working steam trains are still in a race against time. Millions of years ago, vast forests covered this land. Tianshan rose, burying them beneath the earth. Through ages of upheaval, forests turned to coal, driving the Industrial Revolution, full steam ahead. Time, the axis of history. Sunlight, the source of energy. Over eons, these forces converged in different ways across this vast basin. In the eastern part of Xinjiang, unfolding, witnessing and shaping all change. It allows us to grasp millennia. In one timeless moment,